Hello, this is Jack Yost, your business professor, and I want to welcome you to Chapter 9, Managing Diversity and Inclusion. This is not a chapter on political correctness. This chapter on diversity and inclusion deals with the literature that shows us quite clear a couple of things. We know from literature and from business that teams that are assembled from different backgrounds, with differing opinions, with different experience, different groups of people, produce a better work product and produce better recommendations and are more effective in advancing organizational goals. In that, if everybody comes from the same background, with the same experience, with the same learning education, if everything is the same, then we have a very narrow opinion and offer a very narrow set of recommendations. This chapter shows how the alert student and the thinking manager can produce a better product for his company with diversity and inclusion. Let's look at what our learning objectives are today. Today we're going to describe how changes in the U.S. workforce make diversity critical organizational and managerial issue, explain how diversity, if well managed, can give organizations a competitive edge, identifying challenges associated with managing a diverse workforce, define monolithic, pluralistic, and multicultural organizations, list steps managers and their organizations can take to cultivate diversity, summarize the skills and knowledge about cultural differences needed to manage globally, managing diversity, affirmative action. These are special efforts to recruit and hire qualified members of groups that have been discriminated against in the past. In managing diversity, managing a culturally diverse workforce by recognizes the characteristics common to specific groups of employees while dealing with such employees as individuals and supporting, nurturing, and utilizing their differences to the organization's advantage. A brief history. Most immigrants to the U.S. From the late 1800s to the early 1900s were non-English speaking from Italy, Poland, Ireland, and Russia. It was considered poor business practice for white Protestant-dominated insurance companies to hire Irish, Catholics, or Jews, or Italians. It was not until the 1960s that the struggle for acceptance by various ethnic and religious groups, on the whole, succeeded. When the women's rights movement was launched in Seneca Falls in 1848, most occupations, colleges, and professional schools were off limits to women. Women could not vote and lost all property rights once they were married. Until the Civil Rights Act of 1964, women were excluded from certain jobs, needed a male co-signer for a bank loan, and were not issued credit cards if they were married. The most difficult struggle faced America's non-white minorities. Racial segregation remained for 100 years after the end of the Civil War. Blacks suffered voting rights suppression and discrimination in education, employment, and housing. Brown versus Board of Education, 1954, declared segregation unconstitutional, setting the stage for the Civil Rights Act of 1964. The components of workforce diversity. Gender issues. The glass ceiling. This is an invisible barrier, the perception, making it difficult for women and minorities to move beyond a certain level in the corporate hierarchy. Sexual harassment is the conduct of a sexual nature that has negative consequences for employment. Quid pro quo harassment. This is the submission to or rejection of sexual conduct is used as a basis for employment decisions. Hostile environment. This occurs when unwelcomed sexual conduct has the effect of unreasonably interfering with job performance, creating or intimidating or hostile work environment. The top 10 companies for executive women: Abbott Labs, Aetna, American Express, Fleischmann Hilliard, General Motors, IBM, Johnson & Johnson, Marriott, Office Depot, and WellPoint. Basic components of an effective sexual harassment policy. Minorities and immigrations. Black, Asian, and Hispanic workers hold more than 1 out of every 4 jobs. Asian and Hispanic workforces are growing the fastest, followed by the African American workforce. 3 in 10 college enrollees are people of color. By 2020, most of California's entry-level workers will be Hispanic. The younger Americans are, the more likely they will be persons of color. Foreign-born workers make up more than 16% of the total U.S. civilian labor force. 1 in 66 people in the United States identifies him or herself as multiracial. Successful immigrant entrepreneurs in the United States in Exhibit 9.2. Mentally and physically disabled people are the largest unemployed minority in the U.S. The share of the population with a disability is growing. Assistive technologies make it easier for companies to comply with the Americans with Disability Act, the ADA. Today's workers will be more varied than ever. By 2018, it is estimated that 1 out of 3 workers will be aged 55 or older. Entry-level workers for some positions will be in short supply. 70% of workers between 45 and 74 intend to work into retirement and through retirement. To prevent an exodus of talent, employers need strategies to help retain and attract skilled older workers. Employers must also compete for talented young workers. Exhibit 9.3 shows a percentage of the projected U.S. labor force by race and Hispanic origin. Well-managed diversity and inclusion, a competitive advantage. The ability to attract employees, motivated employees, better perspective on a differentiated market, the ability to leverage creativity and innovation and problem solving, enhancement of organizational flexibility. A diverse and inclusive workforce, challenging to manage. Multicultural organizations, monolithic organization. This is an organization that has a low degree of structural integration, employing few women, minorities, or other groups that differ from the majority, and thus has a highly homogeneous employee population. They're all about the same. Pluralistic organization is an organization that has a relatively diverse employee population and makes an effort to involve employees from different gender, racial, or cultural backgrounds. Multicultural organization is an organization that values cultural diversity and seeks to utilize and encourage it. Securing top management's leadership and commitment. Assessing the organization's progress towards goals. These are how organizations can cultivate a diverse workforce. Number 3, attracting employees. Number 4, training employees in diversity. And number 5, retaining employees. To attract a diverse group of qualified employees, recruit, accommodate work and family needs, and set up alternative work arrangements. Retain talented employees with support groups, mentoring, career development and promotions, system accommodation, and accountability. Retain talented employees. One of the great challenges of management is to keep the best people, mentors. These are high-level managers who help ensure that high-potential people are introduced to top management and socialized into the norms and values of the organization. This is often portrayed as a function of upper management, and it is, but the purpose, the job of a mentor, of every staffer, is to find a mentor and to entice the mentor to help the mentee. Each of us are responsible for our own career management. It's not the job of human resource management, and it's not the job of my boss to manage my career. It is your job to manage your career, and it's best done by finding and securing a mentor. Managing across borders. Expatriates or expats. Parent company nationals who are sent to work at a foreign subsidiary. Host country nationals. Individuals from a country where an overseas subsidiary is located. Third country nationals. Individuals from a country other than the home country or the host country of an overseas subsidiary. How to land an international assignment. Tell people, let people know first that you're interested. That's the first thing that whenever I'm working with a client on trying to hire somebody, the first question we ask is, who do we know and who wants the job? Volunteer, that should be you. Study a foreign language if you want to work overseas. Volunteer to be, quote, an ambassador. In Exhibit 9.6, there are ways to prevent failed global assignments. Managing across borders. An expatriate is a foreign national brought into work at the parent company. Ethnocentrism is the tendency to judge others by the standards of one's group or culture, which are seen as superior. Culture shock is the disorientation and stress associated with being in a foreign country or foreign environment. Views of cultural differences. Power distance, how close we stand to each other. Individualism, collectivism, how close we sit to each other. Uncertainty, avoidance. Masculinity and femininity. Let us break here on this chapter on managing diversity and cultural differences, and I invite you to give me your impressions on completing the assignment and filling out the assignment text. And I look forward to talking to you in the next lecturette. This is Jack Yost, your business professor. Thank you.